What's up, folks? What's going on? Turn my little badge around. Some public. Alright, there we go. What's up, folks? What's up? What's going on, everyone? Let everyone come on in. How smooth? What's going on? Hey, cleared up a little bit out here in the PNW today, bro. It's not too terrible right now. Thanks, Crypto Coin. So, excuse me. You know, I'm sitting here looking at all this stuff transpire, man, and you know, the stuff that me, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, Mr. Avon, Kurt, Baggins, you even got to throw Bell in the mix, right? Because Bell has also been one to touch on what we like to call geopolitical accelerants. I know you guys remember me stating a little while ago when this conflict first kicked off between Russia and Ukraine, and we saw the rhetoric coming out of Russia that they didn't want to do business in other currencies, right? SWIFT had imposed, or Biden had used SWIFT to impose sanctions on Russia, obviously regarding their currency. So with that being said, they started looking for alternative ways to work around those sanctions. Now, with that being said, this obviously led to a narrative from the BRICS nations that they were going to be doing trade with one another in local currencies, right? We covered all of that a while back. And don't worry, I still have the videos here. They're just private. There's a reason for that. And once I make them public again, I'll share that reasoning with you why I made them private in the first place. But for now, as it stands, they will be private. With that being said, it wasn't necessarily the beginning, but it was the beginning of things being made public regarding the new monetary system that we were going to be shifting into. Now, what's interesting about this is I told folks with the de-dollarization plan that the BRICS nations had that come hell or high water, you would not see the United States falter as a superpower, and that they would literally have a hand in rolling the tanks out to ensure their supremacy regarding the monetary world. And I tell you right now, from the looks of it, if you follow the money, if you look at what happened with FTX and the fact that they were essentially being funded, Ukraine that is, and then turning around and embezzling that, or I shouldn't even, embezzling is the wrong word, laundering the money that they were receiving via relief aid through the FTX exchange, and then it's essentially cycling back into politicians' hands, was kind of the start of something crazy. Because there's been this narrative from the SEC that we couldn't trust exchanges, right? Decentralized exchanges are bad, bad exchange, and waving their finger at them, etc. And now all of a sudden, it turns out that those funds have been cleaned through the FTX exchange. And now, obviously, Sam Bankman-Fried rolled on Binance, if I'm not mistaken. But, you had a lot of people who felt like Binance was too big to fail, right? I, for one, didn't pay much attention to anything going on with Binance because I kind of felt like whatever, they're the world's largest exchange. Um, you know, whether or not the rhetoric is floating out there that CZ is affiliated with the CCP, to me was ultimately irrelevant, right? Because I already knew there was corruption regarding some of these exchanges, and I knew that they were going to let it happen to an extent, right? If they were benefiting off of it, and political dollars were being thrown into these pools of money and crypto assets, right? But Mr. Avon kept harassing me about Binance and begging me to look into it. Like, man, you have to look into this. And he gave me some reasonings as to why. And they made sense, right? So I started digging into the situation with Binance, and I started asking myself, you see a lot of institutional pullback and posturing around the space, right? There's not a huge influx of capital jumping in just yet. And it kind of made me wonder why. And obviously, people had the lawsuit with the SEC. The SEC was attacking DeFi. They were going after platforms like Celsius and Voyager, etc. If anything had crypto attached to it, you name it, they went after it, right? So initially, I kind of understood, like, okay, so this is the landscape that we're looking at right now. But with the amount of clarity that Ripple just received, I still found it hard to believe that we didn't see institutions jump in just yet. But I always knew and talked about this. What's going on, man? I talked about there needing to be a catalyst, essentially, where the U.S. did something to ensure their superiority, right? And that's a term I hate using, because as an American who took an oath to this Constitution and to our federal government, I want to say that I don't share those views. I don't think that our country is better than anyone else's, right? As someone who has family outside of America, I do not think that, okay? And I want to make that 100% clear. When I say comments like that, I'm referring to the mindset of those in charge, right? So with that being said, when we circle back around to the comments that I've made about conflict being necessary, essentially, to usher this stuff in, and honestly, kind of, plays into what Avon told me about Binance, right, on Twitter. I'm sure you guys have listened to the spaces where we've had discussions about this, right? You have to look at the amount of value that Binance, as the exchange itself, holds in assets. I mean, it is stupendous, right? And then you couple that with the rhetoric that was being floated around with CEC's CCP affiliation, right? With that being said, right, it came out recently in court documentation. Well, before I even go there, let's talk about the Hamas situation, right, guys? And I know people are going to want to know my personal opinions on this conflict regarding Hamas in Israel. I am going to respectfully decline to touch on that. You guys, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw some of the stuff I posted, the footage, the Palestinian man holding his baby girl as she was dead. She was murdered in an and he was getting his last moments with her. Children have died on both sides. Do I have my personal opinions on who's right, who's wrong, and who engineered this? Yeah, but some of those opinions are going to be left out of this video out of respect for the dead and out of respect for those fighting currently within this conflict. And that's a touchy subject, man. You start talking about spiritual conflict and engineered conflict being into one. For a disastrous situation, I want to respect those people over there. And what I will say regarding that conflict directly is that I am praying for everyone involved, and I'm going to leave it at that. So, yeah, there is a lot of wind out here. Let me carry it over here real quick. Give me just a Just got off work, got to pick up a few things. And it's dark. There we go. That's better. Now you can see me. It's funny how like I look so different in different shades of lights. It's crazy. I go from you can't really see him to ta-da, there he is. Silly. But with that being said, enough of that. Let's get back to the topic. When I saw this conflict happen, when I saw the Hamas group excuse my French, but paragliding. Yeah, could you imagine, first of all, if someone tried that here? Could you imagine the Hamas paragliding into New York? They wouldn't even make it through air traffic. Whatever, that's another subject. I'm not going to go there, all right? I'm not going to... I'm not going to sit here and say that until these on both sides shouldn't have been about 5 years ahead of this attack, but that's another story. With that being said, when I saw the Hamas attack initiated, I was on Twitter and I was looking through court documentation regarding Binance, right? Me and Avon had a conversation in a Twitter space about Binance, and I told people Binance is from what I've researched, he was right, and ultimately this is going to be a situation where Binance must fall. Kurt, Crypto 901, Chico, Chris, we've all kind of have had conversations about this. Out of everyone, I'm going to be the first one to admit I'm the one that took it the least serious at first. But when I saw the Hamas group mentioned and Binance mentioned right alongside with them for funneling terrorist funds through an exchange, what do you think went through my head at that point? So now the CCP rhetoric didn't do enough damage regarding CZ and Binance. Sam Bankman-Fried obviously didn't drop big enough dimes regarding CZ and Binance. Now they just magically found a paper trail from the Hamas terrorist group flowing through Binance Exchange. Do you guys remember the video I did when I was walking around on base? And I looked right at the camera and I told you guys that institutions will take control over these exchanges, right? You had everyone screaming, screw the banks, and that's never going to happen, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the third, and, we're libertarians, and we're going to have our freaking freedom, and we'll be our own bank. Said, not so fast. That's not what's going to happen, and Kurt has said it as well. Now, I'm gonna give you guys a nice little hypothetical story for entertainment purposes. Let's say they wanted to usher in the new digital economy, but they knew people wouldn't take to it. And they knew that one of the ways that they could get people to take to it is to highlight how antiquated our current system is regarding cross-border payments and relief aid. What if, when COVID sparked off, this is all for entertainment purposes as well, these are not views representative of the federal government or any intelligence agencies. These are simply my personal perspectives. With that being said, this is all hypothetical in nature, and I shall continue. But let's say they implement it or plan this pandemic, and they highlighted the inefficiencies in our monetary system regarding payments and exchange, and then they showed you how inefficient it was with stimulus checks, purposely. People weren't getting their payments. The whole system was a mess, right? The whole time they're over here touting this, messaging standard that could have everyone unified and speaking the same language. Now, mind you, there is a certain crypto company that's a member body regarding that messaging standard that has messaging software built into its platform outside of just their DLT and crypto asset that's being leveraged. Now, let's take it a little bit further. And then, let's say that wasn't enough for relief to get the point home. Because they showed you how bad it was, but now they needed to show you how good it was. So let's say the conflict with Russia and Ukraine was engineered, essentially, with crypto, for some odd reason, being at the center of that conflict. Do you remember that? Do you remember when all of this happened? People that didn't even know about investing were suddenly talking about SWIFT in public. And I'm sitting here laughing to myself, listening to these random conversations like, hey man, did you see what happened about SWIFT and Russia? And I'm like, wow. This is interesting. So SWIFT's mainstream now. And then, in the midst of this conflict and people dying and losing their lives consistently, constant warring back and forth, oh, this person's going to get involved, this country's going to get involved, they start bringing up crypto. Oh, wasn't it Stellar and Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken, that they started using for relief efforts over in Ukraine to send money quicker, quote unquote, in a more reliable fashion? What? Help me out here, guys. I'm not the smartest in the world. What token is associated with Stellar and digital assets? I think they deal with stable coins and XLM, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's interesting, right? But, okay. Well, that's still not enough, right? So, we need to lay the rhetoric out there that suddenly countries aren't going to want to trust one another anymore, right? Now, that's interesting because we know, we've touched on the R3 member bank testing that was done back in 2016 where XRP was used as a Nostro account replacement successfully, saving institutions wild amounts of money. And then you didn't hear about it anymore. Now all of a sudden you have this rhetoric floating around that these countries may not want to hold one another's currencies anymore and that they're moving away from the US dollar. Now, keep in mind, in times of war, that is when you see the US dollar at its top strength. I told you guys, in the event of a war or conflict, number one, you'll see that. Number two, if they try to threaten the status, guys, of the US dollar by either de-dollarization or other methods of de-dollarizing, I should say, because it's all de-dollarization regardless of what they do. Migrating away from trading. Seriously? Anyways, migrating away from the US dollar as a trade mechanism and trading in their own local currencies threatens that status, right? Not purchasing one another's foreign currencies anymore and then relying on the US dollar as a reserve currency threatens that status, right? So conflict continuously gets engineered. Only now you're seeing at the center of it crypto. Oh, Bizlotto and Binance and all of these guys, they're the reason behind these attacks. They're the reason behind Hamas's success. They're the reason why we have this conflict in the Middle East going on, because they were able to launder money through this decentralized exchange. What do you think comes next? I'll tell you what comes next. And I want you to mark my words here, and I don't say this often, but when I do, I will say this as humbly as possible. Typically, I'm right. And those of you who have been following me for a while know this. Patrick McHenry, crypto-friendly Patrick McHenry, who just grilled Gary Gensler like his life depended on it regarding crypto, his attack on Ripple, along with another congressman who told Gary Gensler to his face that you are essentially exploiting retail investors and innovation in this country in favor of your banker friends at big institutions, right? God protect that man. But with that being said, what do you think comes next? I'll tell you what I think comes next. And watch this, and I want you guys to listen to this, because listen, This hasn't been the first time we've done this on this channel, and it happened. This thing on, guys? All right. My fellow Americans, I come to you today as the temporary Speaker of the House. My name is Patrick McHenry, and I hope you all are well in this time of chaos, devastation, and crisis. Many innocent children on both sides have lost their lives. And in the event of desperation, chaos, conflict, and despair, we have folks over here in this region of the world who utterly need relief. Currently, our system is antiquated, broken, and unable to facilitate this. This isn't the first conflict that we've had in recent years. And as you know, we are currently in a liquidity crisis. We need change fast. In order to usher this change in, we are currently working together with the United States congressmen and women to ensure that new regulations are passed that will essentially usher our country into a new frontier, a new landscape, where suddenly relief can be sent instantaneously anywhere in the world in seconds. We are currently working with financial institutions and private fintech companies to ensure that these goals can be ushered in and actualized. We will be working on stablecoin and CBDC legislation to ensure that this happens. I pray for Americans and for those who are currently enduring this terrible time in conflict within the Middle East. It may not be verbatim, but watch something similar to that be released from yours truly, Patrick McHenry, and the boys at the White House. Think I'm playing around. CZ and Binance will be the catalyst, essentially, for them to take control over pre-existing decentralized exchange mechanisms so that banks don't go through the trouble of paying developers $300,000 a year to build it for them. They will take it, okay, ladies and gentlemen? They will steal it. They're not going to go through that, all right? They will gobble up the pre-existing decentralized exchange infrastructure, use it essentially to attach to their systems and usher this new system in and have control over Binance. And who do you think is going to have control over it? It won't go away. CZ just won't be sitting at the head of it anymore. And you may not know it, but there may be a certain big institution that absorbs it. Exactly. Get your crypto off the exchanges. Now, with that being said, I'm going to bring this up, right? Because I posted this on Twitter. We saw, I think it's FCF, accepting payments regarding loans, mortgages, and mortgage loans, personal loans, auto loans, etc. At HSBC, right? And people say, well, you know, HSBC isn't accepting it directly. And okay, you keep thinking that. That's what it looks like on the surface for now. But what do you think happens when they use CZ and the activity linked to the Hamas group and other terrorist factions, funneling money through there as a catalyst to usher in those regs and legislation regarding the crypto space? What do you think happens then when they pass that legislation and those regulations? I'll tell you what I think happens. I think at that point, that's when you see the third parties become less relevant, like FCF and Chase, JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, BNY Mellon, and the rest of these folks say, oh, we don't have to hide it anymore. We're going to go ahead and start accepting payments directly. And they'll have crypto accounts set up, and they'll be accepting your crypto for payments. And I'm going to tell you something right now, when they start doing that, you'd be a fool to use it. Unless it has already significantly appreciated in price, right? Like I was trying to tell my pops, I was like, you know, I wanted to shoot him, a nice little amount, and he was like, just whatever, and you know, hypothetically, of course, because I can't confirm I own it, but this was a conversation we have for entertainment purposes, right? And for me, it's easier, right? Instead of waiting until things take off and then having to convert it over to fiat and pay capital gains tax, then pay a gift tax, it'd be a lot freaking easier to just set a wallet up, send it over, and I don't create a taxable event. And then it's yours to do whatever you want with it, right? You just got 10,000 XRP or whatever, just hypothetically sitting in an account for you. And then when it appreciates, we can avoid at least over almost half of the taxes that would be associated with it. But I get it, right? If people aren't familiar with it, they don't really want to deal with all that. But, obviously I would be willing, to set all that up, but that's another story. But I told you that story, that hypothetical story for entertainment purposes only, because it correlates with what we're talking about right now. Folks, listen, don't let them fool you, okay? The whole, well, it's third party, it's not FCF, okay. You believe that crap if you want to. You believe that they don't have some sort of a secret account. Who do you think was sitting here purchasing Ethereum by the buttloads when they weren't supposed to, folks? Come on, man. See, this is why I'm still here, right? Because God bless your hearts, some of you. You are so honest and so pure and so naive. And that's great, right? It's great to sit there and think that an institution wouldn't dick you around like that and lie to you and tell you that they had nothing to do with the payments associated with the third party, when that third party is accepting the crypto and then turning around and paying your bills for you to that institution. Don't you, folks? Listen, like I said, you believe that crap if you want to, you're going to be in trouble. All right, if you start trying to make mortgage payments with XRP, like, man, my savings is getting low. I'm not making enough. I do have like 50,000 XRP over here. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to start paying my mortgage in this. Okay. These banks wouldn't be partnered up with third-party style companies allowing you to pay that third party in crypto if they didn't think it was gonna appreciate. Hey, but what do I know, right? Woe be unto him or her or them who start paying mortgages in XRP. and you know what's funny about that is that these guys FCF has it set up as a third party to deal directly with two giant, JP Morgan. Look, stop saying Chase. It's JPM Chase. All right. Everyone's trying to separate the two. JP Morgan, Chase is JP Morgan. All right. Don't pay attention. All right. So them and HSBC, two of the biggest players in cross-border payments, are linked to a third-party service, the same one, except, all right. All right. Like I said, y'all are going to be like the Bitcoin pizza guy, paying $10,000 for a Bitcoin pizza and the shit went up to $70,000. I'm telling you, man. Hell yeah, they want your coins. That's the whole purpose behind it. And you know why they're doing it like that? See, here's the thing. They're not going to tell you they have secret accounts set up with that entity, right? You won't know. They do, but you won't. And then people are going to say, well, they didn't say that. Well, okay. You know what? You're right. Because the banks are so honest, right? They're Boy Scouts. I trust the banks as much as I trust the Catholic Church. And that ain't saying a lot, all right? So you guys go off of, oh, well, I didn't see this definitively, and they didn't, well, they said this, so that's what they, all right. And those are the same type of people that think that Vietnam was fought for American freedom. Guys, you better get your heads out of the clouds, all right? That's I'm going to leave it at that, all right? And take a look around you and realize what's going on. So, with that being said, I do think that they will use this conflict in the Middle East as ultimately a reasoning and or justification to usher in. They're gonna at this point. I mean, over 900 people died in less than a week, man. At this point, that keeps up. They're gonna expedite the regulations, and they're gonna say, "Oh, that we can't allow this to continue." You know, the cryptocurrencies that watch, man. I'm telling you, they're gonna come out. You're gonna see a crash. I'm predicting it now. Could I be wrong? Sure. But I'm almost willing to bet you see that little 12-cent retrace support level that I keep talking about, that I saw a few years ago analyzing the charts with XRP. I bet we touch it. I bet you see a $6,000 Bitcoin. I bet you see Ethereum go down to 600 bucks, right? Look, I can feel it. What's going to happen is these guys are going to come out. They're going to link Binance to all of crypto and push a narrative essentially that it's all dangerous and this is the type of stuff that happens and this is why crypto is bad, because there's no regulation associated with it. They get everyone to sell out. You see, you know, the market dip well below 1 trillion in market cap as a whole, and then that's when the same folks that sat there and told you how dangerous and how bad it was are secretly buying behind the scenes as congressmen and women, and then next thing you know, the institutions start gearing up. Spot ETFs start getting approved out of nowhere. What the hell is this? I thought crypto was dangerous. And you see it on the news that right before the Bitcoin halving, these guys started approving Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum ETFs. Watch. Next year, watch what happens. And then you see that price freaking go bananas out of nowhere. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And they're throwing reg after law after law. And then all of a sudden, all this global conglomeration starts happening. And, you know, countries all start agreeing. Watch what happens, man. I'm telling you, you all are going to be shocked. It's going to come like a thief in the night. And those same folks that told you all of that are then, not only are they going to be using a third party at that point to take your crypto for free, essentially, because you wanted to pay bills in it, now they're going to be like, oh, by the way, yeah, we were accepting your crypto. Oh, and, you know, JP Morgan Chase, even though we work with a third party so that they can grab your crypto from you and give it to us, well, not give it to us. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. We don't accept it directly. So they're not really giving it to us. But, you know, they're keeping it, right? FCF keeps it. You know, we don't get a cut of that at all. There's no, you know, we just get it in fiat, you know? We just get it in fiat. That's all. That those same folks are going to turn around and say, oh, by the way, I know we said crypto was bad and you couldn't buy it with us, but hey, if you have it, you can store it with us. We can use your crypto similar to the broken fractional reserve banking system that we currently have implemented, and we'll make money off of it and we'll give you a portion of it for interest. But if you have a bank account with us, you can't buy it with that bank account. Excuse me. Watch what happens next year, in the year after, that. And you're going to be shocked. And you're going to come back to these videos and be like, what the hell? Regs next year, don't count on it. You want to put a wager on that? I'll put a friendly wager on that. A hypothetical wager because I can't confirm my whole digital assets. How about 1,000 XLM? You want to put a wager on that? Oh, okay. You said regs will be here next year. Okay, yeah. You're right. I think 2025, Delta Ghost, is when we see the big boom. But you got to think, right? There was a gentleman, I wish I knew his name. he did a video, he went viral, talking about how XRP would basically need to shoot to $25,000 a token or in that range somewhere overnight, right? And one of the explanations behind that kind of had to do with trading volume. It sounded like in the order books, right? Like if you had a situation where at the base level where someone, an institution, right, because they're going to spend big money, right? It's not retail, buying only 300,000 worth of XRP tokens. You're talking about folks that can come in with $1 billion at any given point and wipe that market clean if they wanted to, right? But here's the problem with that, okay? If an institution came in and spent $1 million on XRP, that is going to drive the price up a little bit. And then if another institution needed it, right? Remember the video I did about a year or two ago where we had this discussion and I talked about my theorization that there was likely a planned agreement behind the scenes from multiple institutions who were going to need XRP, that they sat down at the table. This guy was literally saying some of the same stuff that I had said, and I can pull the video up, right? I still have it on my channel, where over a year ago, I'm sitting here talking about these guys meeting up with multiple institutions, the Federal Reserve, the BIS, all of these guys, and say, what do you do in cross-border payments a year? How much of this asset would you need to facilitate your day-to-day utility? And so he was saying the same stuff, man. And I was just like, oh, so I wasn't crazy in thinking that, because the guy sounds like he's pretty sharp. And I'm not just saying that because he said what I said, right? He's probably in finance, it sounds like. But he stated that anytime you see big institutional influx in an asset like that, it's going to continue to push it up. And what that does is it creates a weird bottleneck, because other institutions that want to come in after, that are competing with them, have to pay a higher price. And no one wants to pay a higher price than their competitor. So what would likely happen in that situation? Well, you could see a situation where the only problem with this is that Ripple can't sell to exchange, or not to exchanges. They can't sell to institutions directly, because that now constitutes a security. So, but I'm sure there's a way around it, and it would have to be some sort of way where they could trigger like a mass purchase of the asset that's pre-allocated to everyone almost instantaneously. Now, I have a weird theory about this, that maybe that's where the escrow comes into play, right? And that 50 billion or so that's sitting in the escrow is ultimately what causes that supply and demand shock out of nowhere. It comes out of the escrow, and then the XRP that's in the wild gets potentially divvied up between the SMEs, the small and medium institutions, right? And then you see a situation where Ripple could aggressively go after a lot of that XRP in the secondary market, and then they set that aside for ODL usage specifically, right? We shall see. Could Polyson be a way around it? Polyson, I don't know. I'd have to talk to my bro Jake Claver, Max Avery, and a few of those guys, and ask them. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. Pre-allocated accounts, bingo, yep. So then what would happen if they triggered some sort of a mass purchase for these institutions and folks that had the XRP pre-allocated? It would immediately, it'd be like a runaway train. Like, you'd be like, what's going on? And the price would just... But see, the key to that is you'd also have to see a situation where the XRP on the secondary market is gobbled up as well. And I think that's where Ripple comes into play, right? I think Ripple could, purchase all of that and then use it specifically for ODL usage, or you see a situation where the automated market maker feature that's coming to the XRP ledger plays a role regarding that XRP sitting on the secondary market somehow. So now that stuff will be gobbled up, and then the escrow is already pre-allocated, right? And then, man, listen, can that happen? Or this is what I should say. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. Is that plausible? It could be, right? I don't know who that guy is, but like I said, some of the stuff he was saying sounded awfully familiar, you know, and you guys have been here for a while. And some of you have even been following me since the Facebook days where we talked about this stuff prior, you know, 3 years plus. You know, we've been going down this rabbit hole. So you know, I mean, hell, I was doing Palantir videos in like 2018, you know, 2017. So you guys that have been following me for a while have seen, you know, all of this dot connecting that we've been doing. And to see that guy come out of nowhere and lay that out the way that he did, yeah, I mean, there may be some teeth in his theory. So, give me a sec, guys. You know, everyone wants to call me when I'm doing a live. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to hop off of here. I'm going to take this phone call, and if I have time afterwards, when I'm doing cardio at the gym, I may get back on and holler at you guys. But I think we covered some good points today. This is going to be a quick one right now. So I'll definitely be back, and we're going to talk some more crypto and macroeconomics. Signing out.